Thank you for listening to My Pain Web. Despite all that modern medicine offers, chronic pain often worsens and becomes more complicated over time. Connecting to My Pain Web empowers you to take charge of your chronic pain. We'll help you achieve some quality of life as you face your own obstacles of living with chronic pain. You are listening to My Pain Web podcast, episode 9, Who's in Charge? And today we're talking about who's in charge and that you must be the CEO of your chronic pain. So let's get started. Hey everybody, Steve Connick here. Welcome to My Pain Web podcast. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. The My Pain Web podcast is the place where we talk about what it means to be suffering in a pain web. We listen, we share, we connect, we clarify, we cry, and we laugh. Together we empower and motivate to create confidence, worth, and self-esteem. My Pain Web helps you achieve a quality of life as you face the obstacles of living with chronic pain. You can connect to many chronic pain details and information at mypainweb.com. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow me on Twitter at mypainweb and on Facebook. Today's show discusses a very simple but very important part of the pain web, and that is who's in charge, and that you must be the CEO of your chronic pain. This podcast 9 of Who's in Charge is an excellent follow-up to the previous podcast number 8, where we talked about chronic pain options and the controversies and contradictions that exist as we search for treatments for our chronic pain. Now, in the episode 8 podcast, we talked a lot about the statistical fact that support the epidemic trends of increasing chronic pain, not only in the United States, but around the world. So the follow-up here to episode 9 is talking about, well, who is in charge of this? And My Pain Web has allowed me to understand that I must be in charge of my chronic pain, and that I have to be continually searching for answers to these types of questions. Now, these questions that I'm going to discuss with you may be the same questions that you are experiencing. I am very, very confident that as you listen over the next few minutes, you too will gain a sense of motivation and understanding that's going to help you manage your chronic pain and improve your quality of life. So what are some of the questions that we ask? Well, how about what do I need to know and what do I need to do to reduce or manage my chronic pain? And what about why does so much confusion and controversy exist in treating chronic pain? And where do I find the effective treatments to help me return to a productive quality of life? And how about how many people out there are suffering with chronic pain and are continuing to worsen over time despite an expensive and extensive array of medical interventions and treatments? As we've already stated, chronic pain is a silent epidemic. I'm just going to touch on a couple of the statistics that we talked about in some detail in podcast 8. Now, don't get hung up on a few of the specifics here, because you can at any time go to mypainweb.com and click under the My Pain Web Help section, the Who's in Charge tab, and you can find many more specifics about what we're going to be talking about now. Well, right off the bat, we know that Americans are consuming 80% of the global opioid supply in the world, and we consume 99% of the global hydrocodone supply. Yet, the United States only comprises 4.6% of the world's population. That is a huge statistic. And even more so, in a 10-year period from 1997 to 2007, the use of oxycodone have increased 866%. And that's just that one specific opioid. Other opioids have increased with even larger percentages. We also talked about in podcast 8 the fact that the increase in surgical procedures, mainly for back surgeries, which are a major component causing chronic pain, are also on the rise with huge increases. In 1993, 184,000 spinal fusions were performed. And in about a 10-year stretch, that number increased to almost 500,000 spinal fusions. And it's projected by the end of this year, about 1.1 million spine surgeries would have been performed. So when you look at these few little components here of these statistical trends, it appears that there are more and more people absorbing more and more pain medication. There's more and more people receiving surgical procedures like spinal fusions to help manage chronic pain. And thirdly, another interesting component is the fact that there's more and more doctors doing these types of surgical procedures, which has been raising some interesting questions about conflict of interest on some spine surgeons who are receiving additional revenues in the form of either royalties or even kickbacks by device manufacturers that provide necessary hardware to complete some spinal fusion surgeries. So when we look at this all together, it leads us to why we're talking about who's in charge, and that is, who is in charge? With what we're talking about, it almost seems like, well, maybe it's the pharmaceutical companies that are in charge of chronic pain. Looking at how large of a market and how large the revenues are being reported and the increasing numbers that were taking opioids, they seem like maybe they're in charge. Or when we look at the volume of surgeries that are being done for chronic pain, you have to wonder, well, maybe it's the doctors that are in charge of the chronic pain. So where does that leave us? Well, I've wrestled with this particular concept for quite some time, not that long ago. And what I walked away with is something that not only helped me, but this is something that is definitely going to make the difference in how you manage your chronic pain. And that's the simple fact, is that we, the chronic pain sufferer, must be in charge of our chronic pain. We must be the CEO of our chronic pain. Well, you may be thinking, how do I do that? How do I take on that role? It's simple. And a couple thoughts here is, the first thing that's important is, and it's also one of the easiest things to do, is to connect to others. Who do you connect to? Your family, your friends, your healthcare professionals like your doctors. Maybe it's religious leaders that are in your life. It's important that you stay connected. Now, another type of connection is reaching out and connecting to those people who are struggling with similar chronic pain. You and I are struggling with chronic pain. We are listening to each other, and my efforts are merely just offering some information, some knowledge on chronic pain to help you manage your own pain web. Now, this not only helps you make better decisions about your chronic pain, it also helps me in return. See, the confidence and the satisfaction that you gain by helping others with their chronic pain create the important feelings of motivation and confidence within you. What does this do? Well, it awakens your core value of self-worth. And that begins the process of powering momentum as you realize that you are in control, that you are managing your pain web, and that you are the CEO of your chronic pain. So you can see it's a very simple yet effective strategy. The other part of this, besides the connecting, is using the internet. It will be the source of understanding and power to help you learn more about your specific chronic pain and your own pain web. And what it does in the process is that you become more informed about the decisions concerning your chronic pain, and that you will be able to make the decisions about your chronic pain because you have the understanding, you have the information, and then you have the power. And this actually creates a partnership between you and your doctor, that you both will be able to reach the best decisions about what's right for your chronic pain in a mutual fashion. So you can see your role as a CEO is another way to create confidence and motivation, which in turn is going to help you improve your quality of life. At any time, I strongly urge you to go through mypainweb.com, and in the link section you can search about any specific item that you need to know more about, especially for those of you that are suffering with chronic back pain, which has been my chronic pain for about 20 years. I think you're going to find a lot of information on mypainweb.com that's going to give you the confidence and make you feel motivated that you are taking charge. So I'm hoping as you think a little bit more about this, a light bulb goes off, a switch is turned, and you can see how you become the main component within your own pain web. If you've got any questions, if you've got any comments about this, feel free to send an email along to me at help@mypainweb.com. And you can always post your comment on my pain web page on Facebook or at Twitter at mypainweb. I really think you're going to find this particular podcast, as you listen through with podcast 8, both of those podcasts together are powerful. And I feel confident that you're going to be able to feel that you have more control and you can become more effective at managing your chronic pain. I thank you for listening, and remember, some quality of life can exist with chronic pain. Thank you once again for listening, and I look forward to chatting with you again very soon.